The rain hammered the tin roof of the old Victorian in Capitol Hill like it was trying to drown out the city's pulse, but nothing could wash away the sting of Jordan's laugh echoing in Elias's skull. "Eli, dude, you're sweet, like a puppy chasing its tail," Jordan had said earlier that night at the dimly lit coffee shop, his easy grin slicing deeper than any rejection Eli had braced for. Now, soaked to the bone and fumbling with his keys in the pre-dawn gloom, Eli shoved open the door to the apartment he shared with the one guy who made hell seem hospitable, Beckett Thorne. And there, sprawled on the sagging couch in nothing but threadbare boxer briefs and a scowl that could curdle milk, was Beck, nursing a beer and staring at the TV's blue flicker like it owed him money. His tattooed arms crossed over a chest carved from years of hauling lumber back in rural Yakima, eyes narrowing as if Eli's mere existence was a personal affront. Elias Harlan had always been the dreamer in a family of doers, the kid who sketched seascapes while his dad fixed fishing boats along Puget Sound. At 24, with his graphic design gigs barely covering rent in Seattle's relentless churn, he still chased whims like they were lifelines. Jordan Hale was the latest, the barista at Brew Haven with sun-kissed curls and a laugh that lit up the gray afternoons, the kind of guy who quoted Kerouac between espresso pulls and made Eli's stomach twist in that delicious, terrifying way. But tonight's attempt at asking him out had crashed harder than a ferry in a storm. "Puppy," he'd called him. Puppy. The word clawed at Eli's insides as he kicked off his sneakers, water pooling on the scarred hardwood. Beck didn't look up, but his voice rumbled low, gravelly from too many smokes and not enough sleep. "You look like a drowned rat." Again. What? Another poetry slam flop. It wasn't a question. Beck had a knack for dissecting Eli's failures before Eli could even mourn them. They'd been roommates for 8 months now, thrown together by a Craigslist ad and a mutual hatred for small talk. Beck, 26 and built like he could bench press a truck, had washed up in the city after a messy split from his high school sweetheart back east. Something about her wanting kids and him wanting. Well, Eli wasn't sure. Beck kept his cards close, his walls higher than the Space Needle, and his flirting? Non-existent. The man communicated in grunts and glares, a walking fortress of flannel and unspoken regrets. Eli forced a laugh that came out brittle, peeling off his drenched hoodie and tossing it toward the laundry basket. It missed naturally. Close. More like a coffee date that turned into a pity party. "Jordan thinks I'm adorable. As in, not dateable." He slumped into the armchair across from Beck, the one with the springs that poked like accusations. The apartment smelled of stale takeout and Beck's pine tar soap, a scent that always lingered like an uninvited guest. Eli's phone buzzed in his pocket. A group chat from his design crew, memes about bad dates, but he ignored it, staring at the ceiling cracks that mapped out his stalled life. Beck took a slow pull from his beer, the can denting slightly under his grip. "Jordan. The pretty boy with the tattoos? Figures. You chase rainbows, Harlan, and end up with wet socks." There was no malice in it, just that blunt edge Beck wielded like a favorite tool. Honest to a fault, or maybe just too tired to soften the blow. Eli shot him a glare, but it dissolved into exhaustion. Beck wasn't wrong. Eli had always been the soft one, the guy who blushed at compliments and tripped over his own charm. Growing up in a sleepy suburb north of Seattle, with parents who loved him fiercely but whispered about toughening up after every scraped knee, he'd learned to hide his heart behind sketches and sarcasm. College had cracked that open. First kiss in a dorm party haze, first heartbreak over a lacrosse jock who ghosted him mid-semester, but nothing prepared him for the ache of wanting someone who saw him as a side character. "Fuck it," Eli muttered, rubbing his temples. "I need a plan. Like actual strategy. No more winging it like a drunk bird." The idea hit him then, born of desperation and a late-night scroll through some godforsaken self-help forum. Flirting hacks. Videos, articles, the whole pseudoscience of seduction. Learn the moves, practice the lines, become the guy who doesn't fumble. Jordan wouldn't know what hit him. Beck snorted, finally glancing over, those storm-gray eyes appraising Eli like he was a faulty engine. Strategy. Right. Because that's what you need. A playbook for heartbreak. He set the beer down with a thud, leaning forward, elbows on knees. The TV droned on about some true crime doc, a narrator's voice weaving tales of betrayal that mirrored Eli's mood too closely. "Look, kid. Flirting ain't blueprints. It's instinct. You got it or you don't. Eli's jaw tightened. Kid. Beck tossed that around like confetti, a 5-year gap that felt like a chasm. Easy for you to say. You're the one who walks into a room and owns it without trying. Women or whoever probably line up just to bask in your brooding glow. It was half joke, half truth. Eli had seen it at the dive bar down the block, how heads turned when Beck laughed. A rare, rumbling sound that cut through the noise like thunder. Beck's expression flickered, something unreadable shadowing his face before he masked it with a smirk. Glow. Yeah, that's me, human lighthouse. He stood, all 6'2" of him unfolding like a warning, and headed for the kitchenette, grabbing another beer from the fridge. The fridge light cast him in stark relief, highlighting the ink snaking up his forearm. A compass rose, weathered and true north missing. Practice on someone safe then. Not your dream boy. Build the muscle. Eli blinked, the words hanging in the humid air. Practice. On someone safe. His gaze snagged on Beck's broad back, the way his shoulders tensed under the dim bulb. Like who? The neighbor's cat? Or you mean you, Mr. Untouchable? Yeah, right. You'd eat me alive. Beck turned, bottle in hand, and for a split second, his eyes held Eli's, steady, challenging, with a heat that made the room shrink. Try me, Harlan. Worst I can do is laugh. He popped the cap, foam spilling over his knuckles, and leaned against the counter, arms crossed again. Or maybe you'll surprise us both. The challenge landed like a spark on dry tinder. Eli's pulse kicked up, a reckless thrill chasing away the night's chill. Why not? Beck was safe, impenetrable, straight as the I-5 and twice as cynical. No risk of real damage. Just lines to test, smiles to hone. Fine, Eli said, voice steadier than he felt. He pushed up from the chair, closing the distance until they were inches apart, the air thick with rain scent and possibility. Lesson 1: eye contact. Hold it like you're daring them to look away. Beck didn't flinch, those gray eyes locking on like anchors. That's so. Eli swallowed, heart thudding against his ribs. Up close, Beck smelled like earth after a downpour, and his stubble caught the light in a way that made Eli's thoughts scatter. Yeah, and lean in. Just a bit. Makes it personal. He demonstrated, tilting forward, their breaths mingling in the charged space. Beck's lips twitched, not quite a smile. Personal, huh? You're breathing on me, Romeo. But he didn't pull back. If anything, he held ground, a muscle jumping in his jaw. Eli pressed on, the forearm tips flooding back. Touch lightly, mirror body language, tease with a question. His fingers brushed Beck's wrist, casual, electric, and he echoed Beck's stance, one hip cocked against the counter. So, Thorne, what's a guy like you doing in a dump like this? Chasing city lights or just hiding from the wolves? Beck's breath hitched, faint but there, and his eyes darkened, pupils swallowing the gray. Wolves mostly. City's got its own pack. His voice dropped an octave, rougher now, and he mirrored the touch, fingers grazing Eli's forearm, calluses scraping like a promise. Your turn to answer. What's got you chasing pretty boys when you've got sketches that could stop traffic? The question hung, intimate in its aim, and Eli faltered, the script crumbling under Beck's gaze. This wasn't practice. It was a current pulling him under. But he rallied, flashing a grin he'd practiced in the mirror. Maybe I'm just waiting for the right canvas. Their hands lingered, the touch stretching seconds into something heavier, until Beck cleared his throat and stepped back, breaking the spell. Not bad, Harlan, he said, voice gruff as he handed over the beer. You might survive the next one. But as Eli took the bottle, their fingers tangled briefly, and in that hitch Eli glimpsed it. A crack in the fortress, a hunger Beck buried deeper than roots. That night, as rain softened to a drizzle and Eli lay awake in his narrow bed, the apartment's walls creaking like old bones, he replayed the moment on loop. Practice, he'd told himself. Just practice. But the warmth of Beck's skin lingered on his fingertips, a ghost that whispered doubts. Jordan's laugh faded further, replaced by gray eyes and a challenge that felt less like a game and more like fate knocking in the dead of night. By morning, the city hummed back to life, horns blaring on Pike Street, the scent of fresh-baked sourdough wafting from the bakery below. Eli brewed coffee strong enough to wake the dead, 2 mugs steaming on the counter as Beck shuffled in, hair mussed and wearing yesterday's jeans. No mention of the midnight lesson, just a nod and a grunt as he claimed his mug, black and bitter like his moods. Eli watched him over the rim of his own, the way Beck's throat worked on the swallow, Adam's apple bobbing like a tell he couldn't hide. Work dragged. Pixel pushing for a startup that peddled eco-gadgets. Eli's cubicle a fluorescent cage overlooking Elliott Bay's choppy waters. His sketches tucked in a drawer were escapes. Swirling waves crashing into human forms, lovers tangled in storm-swept embraces. Jordan texted once, "Sorry if I was harsh, you're cool." But it landed flat, a consolation prize. Eli's mind wandered back to Beck, to the way his touch had ignited something primal, unscripted. By lunch he was deep in YouTube rabbit holes. Advanced flirting for introverts. Body language hacks that seal the deal. Notes scribbled on a napkin. Maintain mystery, use vulnerability as bait. Escalate touch gradually. Back home the apartment thrummed with Friday's prelude. Beck's boots thudding as he prepped for his shift at the auto shop. Grease already smudged on his knuckles. Heading out? Eli asked, casual as he chopped onions for a half-assed stir-fry. Beck paused, wiping his hands on a rag. "Yeah, late one. Don't burn the place down." But he lingered, eyes flicking to Eli's notebook on the table. The flirting tip scrawled in hasty blue ink. A brow arched. Homework. Eli's cheeks heated, but he owned it, sliding the notebook over. Refining the craft. Lesson 2. Compliments with a twist. Not just "you look nice." Something specific tied to who they are. He met Beck's gaze, channeling the video's confidence. Like, "Those hands of yours. Mechanics magic. Bet they could fix anything broken." Beck stilled, rag twisting in his fist. The compliment hung, laced with intent Eli hadn't fully meant, or had he? Beck's eyes searched his, probing for the joke, finding none. "Careful, Harlan. Words like that start fires." He stepped closer, not retreating this time, his bulk filling the kitchen's narrow aisle. "Your turn. What's broken in you that needs fixing?" The question pierced straight to the marrow. Eli's breath caught. Beck's proximity a wall of heat, flannel brushing his arm. Vulnerability as bait, the notes echoed. "This heart mostly chases what it can't catch." His voice cracked, honest in a way that scared him, fingers itching to trace that compass tattoo. Beck's hand lifted, hesitating before cupping Eli's jaw, rough palm against smooth skin, thumb brushing the faint scar. Maybe it's chasing the wrong things. The touch lingered, electric, until a horn blared outside, shattering the bubble. Beck dropped his hand, jaw set. "Gotta go. Practice safe." He was out the door before Eli could respond, leaving the air charged, onions sizzling forgotten on the stove. That touch haunted Eli through the evening. Ghost fingers on his skin as he sketched by lamplight, lines blurring into Beck's profile. Sharp jaw, shadowed eyes. The stir-fry charred to ash, a metaphor he ignored. When Beck stumbled in past midnight, reeking of motor oil and whiskey, Eli was waiting, notebook in lap like armor. "Rough night." Eli ventured, perched on the couch. Beck shrugged off his jacket, muscles rippling under his tee. "Same shit. Boss writing me about quotas." He dropped beside Eli, close enough their thighs brushed, and snatched the notebook. Lesson 3. Eli nodded, pulse racing. Teasing. Light jabs to build tension. He turned, facing Beck fully, knee nudging his. "Like, you talk a big game about instinct, but I bet you've got moves rustier than that old Chevy you tinker with." Beck's laugh barked out, genuine low, and he leaned in, mirroring the nudge, their faces inches apart. "Rusty? Careful, or I'll show you oiled." His hand found Eli's knee, squeezing once, firm, intentional, before pulling back. But the gray eyes stayed locked, smoldering. Tension coiled, thick as fog off the bay. Eli's mouth went dry, the line between practice and pulse blurring. "Your move, Thorn." Beck's thumb traced Eli's kneecap, slow circles that sent sparks up his spine. "This what you want? Or just rehearsal for the real show?" Eli's resolve frayed. "Maybe the show's right here." The words slipped out, raw, and Beck's breath stuttered, hand stilling. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed to that touch, that gaze. Then Beck withdrew, standing abruptly. Get some sleep, Eli. Jordan's waiting. The door to his room clicked shut, leaving Eli adrift in the dark, wondering if he just ignited the fire Beck warned about, or burned the bridge to his own heart. Days blurred into a rhythm of rain-slick streets and stolen moments, Eli's flirting arsenal sharpening on the whetstone of Beck's reluctant participation. Mornings started with coffee-fueled banter, Eli lobbing compliments like grenades. That shirt hugs you like it knows a secret. Beck parrying with grunts that softened to smirks. Afternoons, Eli at his desk, mind wandering to the way Beck's laugh rumbled when Eli teased his lumberjack chic, or how his eyes lingered longer each time Eli demonstrated a hair tuck hack, fingers grazing Beck's temple. Jordan faded to background noise. A wave and a smile at Brew Haven, Eli's texts going unanswered more often than not. The crush that had sparked this madness now felt like a distant thunder, while Beck's presence stormed closer, filling the apartment with a gravity Eli couldn't ignore. One evening, as October's chill seeped through the windows, Eli found Beck on the fire escape, nursing a cigarette against the dusk. Seattle's skyline a jagged silhouette, ferries cutting white wakes on the sound. Smoking again? Eli leaned out the window, voice light but laced with concern. Lesson 4. Concern as connection. Thought you quit for that girl back home. Beck exhaled smoke in a slow plume, eyes on the horizon. Lila. Yeah, didn't stick. He stubbed the butt, flicking it into the void. Quitting's for people with reasons to breathe easier. Eli climbed out, the metal groaning under him, and sat beside Beck, thighs pressing, shoulders brushing in the tight space. The city buzzed below. Laughter from a passing tour group, the distant wail of a siren. You could have one. Reason, I mean. You're more than oil stains and bad habits. Beck turned, face half-shadowed, the compass tattoo peeking from his rolled sleeve. And you? More than sketches and crushes that ghost you. His voice was soft, probing, the tough shell cracking under the weight of whatever brewed between them. Eli's chest tightened. Vulnerability time. Lately? Feels like I'm drawing blanks. Chasing Jordan was easy. Safe dream. But this, he gestured vaguely, hand brushing Beck's. This is real. Messy. Terrifying. Beck's fingers intertwined with his. Calluses a map against Eli's palm. Terrifying's where the good shit lives, Eli. He pulled Eli closer, foreheads touching, breath sinking in the cooling air. Lesson 5. The kiss. Go on. Practice. Heart slamming, Eli closed the gap, lips brushing Beck's tentative. Then sure. The taste of smoke and salt exploding like revelation. Beck responded, hand cupping Eli's neck, pulling him in deep. A kiss that devoured all hunger and hidden years. It stretched eternal, bodies aligning on the narrow perch, the city fading to white noise. When they broke, gasping, Beck's eyes were wrecked, raw, exposed. Fuck, Eli. That wasn't practice. No, Eli whispered, tracing Beck's jaw. It wasn't. But dawn brought the fracture. Eli woke to an empty bed, Beck's side cold. A note on the counter. Shop emergency. Talk later. Hours ticked by, Eli pacing, sketching feverishly. Their kiss in charcoal strokes, passion bleeding off the page. When Beck finally dragged in at dusk, exhaustion etched deep, Eli pounced. Words tumbling about last night, about them, about finally seeing. Beck's face shuddered. Eli. Shit. I can't. He raked a hand through his hair, pacing the living room like a caged wolf. Last night was God, it was everything. But I'm not. I'm not out. Not like you. Back home in Yakima I buried this deep. Lila was cover, the shop's my shield. If word gets out. Eli's world tilted. Buried? Beck, you're gay? Bye. Whatever, this isn't a phase. That kiss was a mistake. Beck cut in, voice cracking. For you. You're out free. Me? I'm the guy who flirts with denial because coming out means losing the crew, the family, the whole damn life I clawed for. He stopped, eyes glistening. You deserve Jordan. Or someone who can shout it from the ferries. Not this. Betrayal stung sharp. Not Beck's secret, but the walls slamming up, the kiss recast as regret. You think I'm practicing on you? This started that way, yeah, hacks for Jordan. But you're the hack that hacked me open. Tears pricked Eli's eyes, hot and unbidden. Don't you dare decide what I deserve. Beck reached, then dropped his hand. I have to. For both of us. He grabbed his jacket, door slamming like a guillotine. Eli sank to the floor, sobs racking him as rain lashed the windows anew. The apartment echoed empty, sketches mocking from the table. Lovers now fractured lines. Days bled into silence. Beck crashing late, avoiding eyes. Eli throwing himself into work. Jordan's texts a cruel echo. One night, desperation peaked. Eli at a bar in Belltown nursing whiskey, when Jordan slid onto the stool beside him. Eli? You look wrecked. Jordan's concern was genuine, curls tousled from the wind. Eli spilled it all, the hacks, the roommate, the kiss that shattered. Jordan listened, hand on Eli's shoulder. Sounds like you fell for the wrong target. Or the right one, scared shitless. Scared of what? Me. Eli laughed bitterly, the whiskey burning truth loose. Jordan shook his head. Of himself. Give it air. Real love doesn't hide in hacks. The words lingered as Eli stumbled home. The apartment dark save for Beck's door cracked, light spilling like an invitation. He pushed in, Beck on the bed, head in hands, shoulders bowed. Can't sleep, Eli whispered, hovering. Beck looked up, wrecked. Can't breathe. Eli, I am sorry. It's not you. It's me, every buried piece screaming to surface. He stood, closing the distance, hands framing Eli's face. That kiss? It undid me. Made me want mornings with you, sketches on the walls, the whole messy truth. Eli's heart fractured open. Then let it. I'm not Jordan. I'm not a dream. I'm here, Beck. With you. Beck's kiss was apology and anchor, fierce, then tender. Bodies colliding in a tangle of need and release. Clothes shed like old skins, they mapped each other on the rumpled sheets. Beck's hands reverent on Eli's hips. Eli's lips tracing the compass, finding north in heated gasps. It was storm and sanctuary, cries muffled in pillows as they chased oblivion. Emerging sweat slick and spent, limbs entwined. After, in the quiet, Beck traced Eli's scar. I'm done hiding. For you. For us. Eli smiled, tears salting their skin. Welcome home. Weeks wove them tighter. Lazy Sundays sketching in bed. Beck's crew ribbing him at the shop until he shut them down with a grin and a hand in Eli's pocket. Coming out rippled. A tense call to Yakima, Lila's surprised blessing. The apartment filling with laughter over burnt pancakes. Jordan, ever the ally, bought the first round at their unofficial celebration, toasting to hacks that hack back. One crisp November eve, fire escaped their throne. Eli leaned into Beck's side, city lights winking below. Think I won my crush? Beck's arm tightened, lips brushing his temple. Damn right. And I got smitten in the crossfire. In that moment, under a sky clearing to stars, Eli knew. Love wasn't a hack or a practice run. It was the raw sketch of two souls colliding, finding freedom in the mess, and compassion in the courage to claim it.